Right. So, dear, we can just jump into the conversation right away and just take it away.
Okay, perfect. So let me share my screen and put it on present mode. Hopefully it's happening now. And then we can jump right into it. And well, those who are not here probably will be able to watch the recording. So yeah, let's use our time well. I've prepared a lot of stuff for you today. And I kind of try to take it from the fun side because I do believe business modeling might sound like a dry story, but actually it's not. It's very exciting, and you can see so many really creative and really successful solutions out there that you can learn from. So I brought some inspiration, and I also brought some tools that you can use in the next few weeks of the sprint. So let's jump straight into that. And you're already used to having a little bit of interaction in these master classes, and I would like to continue with that practice. So my first question is, for those who are here, why do you think business models really matter? Why are they so important? We keep coming back to this topic of business model over and over again. Please feel free to speak up, or I know that you also like this practice of adding some thoughts in the chat. Maybe I will ask you, Zahira, if there are thoughts in the chat, just read it out for me because I might not be able to swap over. Any
So,
ideas why we speak so much about business models? Why are they so important?
let's hear it from our sprinters. I can see Pravesh on video, so I'm going to invite him to tell us his views.
Why are business models so important? Why do they matter? Okay.
There is no existence without business models.
There is no existence without business models. I think that's a very important statement and also a very good start for our conversation. But here is another thing. The biggest big breakthrough innovations often don't come from technological innovations, and they often don't come from product innovations and coming up with new services. The biggest breakthroughs often come from business model innovation, from new ways of delivering value to the customers, and then creating new markets or actually harvesting in existing markets in different ways. So business model innovation is as important as designing new products or creating new solutions or using new technologies. Even more important sometimes. So that's why we believe that it's so important to understand as many nitty-gritty details as you can understand. And I would like to show you an example because business model innovation was not around for too long. In the 20th century, in the world of pipeline businesses and linear businesses, business models, we had a few of them, few examples of them, and we were kind of using the same business models, all of us in all sorts of industries and businesses with little alterations to them. But then with digitization and with all the technologies and the networks appearing, we are having now a lot more room to play around and much more creative ways to create value for our markets, for our customers. So let me bring you really almost like a dumb example, but I really love this one, the revolution of the razor industry. Now, hearing this title, how you feel, like how exciting can the razor industry be like, right? So why would selling razors be so innovative and so exciting? And indeed it is. Like originally, we didn't even have razors. We had the barbers to take care of like all the like shaving of men's face and taking care of their hairs and stuff. But then we got this product, the razor, that hit the market and people started buying them. And instead of taking the services of a barber, they were taking care of shaving at home. That's like the old kind of past history. So what happened was that the razor industry came up with a new business model to be able to sell more, because usually people just bought a razor and then for a long time they didn't purchase again. So the model that they came up with was that they are selling the razor handle for a very, very cheap price, but then they are selling bundles of razor heads separately. That is becoming a more expensive product. So for one handle, they are selling the heads over and over and over again. So the resale pipeline this way is established. This is what in the kind of traditional offline world we called bait and hook model. A lot of different industries were trying to leverage this kind of logic, and a lot of different models we can see, like versions and alterations of it. Can you tell me like one bait and hook model where you have the similar kind of logic? So you get something, a starter for a lower price or even for free, and then you start spending money. Are there any devices or tools that you are using that are similar? Feel free to speak up. That's probably a little bit faster than chat.
You may like to catch the previous chat, Dia.
Okay. TV cable subscriptions. Yes, that can be one. Mosquito repellent. Oh, that's an interesting one. I would love to hear about that. So maybe you buy the device for a cheap price and then you keep buying the refills. Absolutely. Very good examples. I also have this one. Probably you all recognize this machine. It's an espresso machine, which is pretty cheap compared to like what a neat little piece of technology it is. Nice design. You know, you like to put it in your kitchen. It looks good. And with a click of a button, you can brew like really nice quality coffee, almost like coffee shop quality coffee for breakfast. And you know the device is really cheap, but these little cartridges, yeah, printers and cartridges also very good example. These little cartridges of coffee are very expensive. But once you are in it, you just don't want to let go of it because it's so convenient. It feels so nice. You're belonging to a community. Nescafe or Nespresso actually made it almost like the Apple of, you know, the coffee world. Easy to use, very stylish. People want to belong to this community. So it's actually not only the business model that is very innovative, and they basically created like a huge market for themselves. Instead of just selling coffee, selling the coffee machines and then much more expensive refills than the proper bag of coffee used to be before. Mobile and SIM recharge is also a good example, but they really created like an ambiance around it, a feeling of, you know, being cool, like all these colorful little coffee cartridges. They look like so nice. You really want to take them home and have them in your kitchen. So they really made like a super exciting community where people want to belong to. So this comes from the same sort of business model that we used to have for bait and hook. Now, let's go back to this razor industry innovation. So how can you take this further? Can you digitize it in any way? What would be your guess? Can you digitize the razor industry? And if yes, how would you do that? I'd be very curious to hear. It looks even like almost like dumb. Like why would you do that? And how big business is there if we try to digitize the razor industry? Who would want to do that? Is this an exciting business model? Okay, let me expose the answer. I tell you, someone did try to digitize the razor industry. They created a brand new business model, and they named this kind of digital platform the $1 Shave Club. And after this presentation, if you feel like you can have a look, what happened here, there was a guy called Mike Dobbin, and he went out to party with a friend of his, and they were chatting and maybe even having some drinks, because the topic that they were discussing was around razors, which is not a typical topic for a party. And they were really kind of complaining about how razors are so expensive. One razor is $20 and it's such a cheap piece of device. Why does it have to be so expensive? So they decided to establish a company around it. They called it the $1 Shave Club because they are literally selling razors for $1. And they decided to build a community around it. And now this is where it starts exciting. You know, the concept of community you are already very familiar with. So what they did, they created bundles of razor packages. They had these 3 bundles at the beginning, like the Humble Twin, which is like 2 blades razors, 5 razors in a bag for $4. So it's even less than $1 for a razor. Then they had like 4 blades, 4 razors for $7, and so on and so forth. So what the business model was, we give you a razor for $1, you get different packs, and it's going to be automatically delivered to your doorstep every month. So from now on, you don't need to worry about a thing. You will always get your razors, like your fresh razors, on a very fair price, very good quality every month. It looks dumb, right? If I was a VC, I wouldn't invest in something like that. Actually, it became a huge success. It's $1 billion business today, the $1 Shave Club, simply because of this little innovative thinking of eliminating one customer pain in a new way than nobody ever did it before. And now if you go to this website, you end up like having to fill in a questionnaire about your preferences and skin types and all that. And now it's not only razors that they are selling, but they are creating like personalized packages for you, again, delivered to you every month without having to reorder all the time. So you always have your kind of supplies that are needed for your hygiene stuff. So what did they achieve? And this is basically kind of digitizing the existing model. They were founded in 2012, and only 3 years later, they owned 54% of the online razor market. They became so successful, everybody wanted to subscribe and to buy from them. And subscription is the key word here. Instead of trying to sell products over and over and over again, they digitized, the sales process basically, and they basically automated the sales. So they don't have to push clients to buy more and more and more razors. It's just a subscription that you pay every month, and every month you receive a bag of products for yourself. So this is how they became market leaders in 3 years on a market that is actually large enough to drive $1 billion business for them. Today, they have over 4 million subscribers, which is, when I heard this story for the first time, I thought like, wow, this is almost like ridiculous. It's a huge number, only because of like entering into an old market with a completely new mindset. And just to really have some fun, I would like to show you the video that helped them, because now we are in the prototyping week. So I will show you what the prototype of this idea was when this guy decided to do the $1 Shave Club. He created this little video, and this was the pitch that he showed to VCs. So when he started fundraising, went to the venture capitalists, the venture capitalist was like, okay, I don't understand what this $1 Shave Club is about. And he showed the video, and the VC says, okay, that's interesting. I want to actually try and invest in it. And then they also showed this to the market, and it went viral, and they became so successful that in a few weeks they had like a huge market opportunity, a lot of people wanting to buy from them. So watch the video and think about your prototyping process. Would you be able to do this kind of video this week? Probably. Let's check. Please give me feedback if you can hear the sound.
I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com.
Does it sound good?
DollarShaveClub.com. Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No.
I can't hear it, dear.
No?
Just increase the volume of it.
You can't hear it?
It's very faint, very faint.
Hitting strip and a pivot head.
It's good.
So gentle, a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop-up!
Stop paying for shave tech you don't need.
And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
A little bit crazy, isn't it?
Hi.
Hold on. We don't want to listen to you, Mike, again. Thank you. That was enough. Would you be able to do such a prototype this week or next week? How do you feel? Would it work? I mean, this guy just went into their kind of warehouse and just had some fun with his colleagues on an iPhone, right? And they made a video that went viral and millions of people watched it. And actually they created a market from day one for themselves. They had a nice idea, good business model, and they had also a nice way to actually kick it off. And I think these are the two kind of secret elements that you need to be successful with your business model. So let's go into this.
So dear, your video connected with the two of our sprinters. One says crazy and nice, and the other one says lovely motivation for the week.
Exactly. So let's look into this. Like, how do you come up with the new business models, and what are the business models of the future? And I mean, you're probably already used to it. Like, we won't have ready answers for you, but we are giving you the inspiration and the tools to be able to come up with your own answers, with your own business models that will make sense for Trident in the future, and that will make you future-proof. So first, let's see this phenomena of how new economies and new value definitions are born around kind of creative thinking around business models. Because what did these guys have, right? They had nothing. They are not manufacturing razors. They are buying it from a vendor. They just made a website. They made a nice video. They came up with bundles of products, and they had a good price and value deal. And then they started selling. So let's see what digitization and new technologies are allowing in the new economy space and in the value creation space. So let's see some of the emerging areas. Crowd economy, and I will speak a little bit of each of them. Crowd economy is something that you have heard of quite a lot in the past 6-7 weeks for sure from us. So let's see a few examples of what that actually means. Crowd economy means when you start including a lot of players in your value creation models. For example, in the Amazon Mechanical Turk solution, which I really dislike this name, but I mean, they for some reason found it the right name. It's access to anyone, for anyone to on-demand 24/7 workforce, particularly around creating data-driven business. So these platform can help you in data analytics, in designing the perfect machine learning solutions. And you have a crowd of experts and workers on Amazon to help you achieve your data goals. That's one example of crowd economy. You don't need to hire those people. You can find those people out there. Or the staff on demand initiative that you've heard about already, like TopTel, where you can get like the top 3% of the world's digital talent to build digital products, to get digital project managers, to get agile coaches, to get people in finance who understand, you know, the future of finance, and so on and so forth. That's a crowd economy. But I also wanted to show you one industrial example. This is called Predix, and it comes from GE. And I will speak a lot about this one today because I think this is the closest example to you. Predix was designed by GE, General Electric, to create an industrial IoT platform where factories can feed in their production data and a community can design Industry 4.0 applications for those factories who are participating on the platform. So you feed in your data and you get really good, exciting, interesting solutions in return, maybe predictive maintenance or other application areas of Industry 4.0. GE started building this, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. It's a pretty genius idea. I will tell you what happened with them in the past 5 or 6 years. It's a pretty genius idea, and their idea was that data is a huge value. They wanted to become kind of like the application store, the app store for Industry 4.0 players. And then what else do we have here? We have, for example, a lot of like crowdfunding initiatives like the Kickstarter, where you can not only get the community to produce certain stuff and sell it on your platform, but you can also get them to fund certain activities. So the crowd economy can have different objectives, and we see really interesting examples. And they are driving us towards a business model called platform business model, and one that is called ecosystem business model that I'm going to speak a little bit more about today, because it seems like for scalable business models, this is the logic that we really need somewhere in the core of our thinking so that we can create something that can grow very quickly with a very low marginal cost. So here's the free data economy, and you know a lot about it. It's kind of like the digital version of the bait and hook model that you had, like, you know, you get the little razor handle for very, very cheap, and then you get the razor heads for more expensive. Same happens in the free data economy. You get some sort of content or some sort of experience for free, but then, you know, at some point you are going to pay the premium. Probably like the most regular one is that you are exposed to advertisements, and then you are actually earning money to those platforms where you are getting the free data. So TikTok is one of them. for your kids if they are using it, or WhatsApp. I mean, all these products, all these services that are for free, usually it means that you are the product. That's the business model. Your attention, your clicks, your willingness to buy things, that's the product, and that's why you are receiving things for free. And sometimes data is not for free. So for example, in case of GE Predix, they were getting the data under a contract and a partnership, so they were not getting it for free. But then they created a marketplace around that, and then the solutions that were born on top of that data layer, they could then sell it back to the marketplace. I will explain that in more details later. And of course, one of the iconic like free data economy model is coming from Google, who are giving you the search engine for free, but of course they are making like huge business on advertisement. And this is the number of searches per day and how it grows in the past 20 years. If you look at it, like 99, we were conducting like 500,000 searches on Google, and today daily we are doing 5.5 billion searches on Google. Imagine what a huge market that is and how much money they are earning with that. So the next kind of space and value creation that is happening is around smartness economy. And that basically means that we are trying to put smarts layer into everything that is surrounding us. This is how the cell phone became the smartphone, and the home is becoming smart home, and our cars are becoming smart cars, autonomous cars. And we are just trying to add the smartness layer to everything. So we can even say like AI is becoming the electricity of the 21st century. So the same way in the 20th century, we added electricity to everything. Now we are trying to put the AI layer into everything. And here's one very sweet example that I really like. It's called Neuro. It's basically a delivery self-driving car. So when you order from a company, this self-driving vehicle can deliver it to your doorstep very quickly and easily and in a safe manner. And just to show you how quickly the smartness economy is growing, last year, only in the first 6 months, so first half of last year, only in the US, 965 AI-based companies were funded. Altogether, they raised almost like $14 billion in 6 months, which is huge. Neuro alone, this little self-driving delivery car, raised $2.7 billion at the beginning of last year. So this is a huge thing. Watch out. And I'm really happy to see some smart initiatives happening in the sprint. I mean, there is a market and it's growing exponentially. So we'd better keep our eyes on that. But on the other hand, sometimes we are just kind of like following the hype and the trends, and we sort of overkill, like putting a chip in everything that don't make sense. So also be clever about it. Like just for the mere fact that we can put a chip into something, it doesn't mean that we have to. There's even a movement around this that is a little bit like making fun of the smartness economy kind of movement, which is called the "we put a chip in it" movement. And there is a Tumblr page. If you want to have some fun, look at it. They are showing like completely meaningless products that are made smart for whatever reason. Someone thought it will be fun, and they made like really crazy stuff. So here are some of my favorites, like this diaper that sends you a tweet when you have to change diaper on your baby. Like it sounds like something very handy, but in reality, I mean, you do realize that without a tweet, like looking at your phone is as complicated as just going to your baby and change the diaper. Or here is another one that I found kind of funny. It's even more funny. It's there is this cloth bag. If you use this, you get an alert when the clothes are dry, so you can take them off the lace. I mean, it completely does not make any sense, right? Like, why would you want the notification on your mobile phone instead of just going out and checking if the clothes are dry already? So please make sure that you don't overkill. Use the technology for making some value, not just because you can, but also because it makes sense to actually use that technology. But definitely the smartness economy is growing tremendously. So here is one that I really, really find super exciting. It's an early stage one, the multiple world models economy. And it's speaking about this kind of future scenario where virtual reality becomes more widespread. And we actually start selling our products not only in the physical world, but also in the virtual world. So what will be your business model for that? Imagine, for example, here's the first kind of widespread virtual reality application, this kind of game called Second Life. It's literally like a second life in the virtual space where you can have any sort of avatar and you can have a second life, you know, outside your real one in the virtual environment. So some of the brands are actually moving into Second Life and start selling their products there. For example, Audi, which is a premium car manufacturer. They are selling Audis in Second Life. So if you want your avatar to drive around, you know, in a cool car and, you know, just to be related to a cool brand, you can buy a virtual Audi for your virtual avatar. So we are creating a brand new kind of market in the virtual space that can exist parallel to our existing physical market, but it can also work the other way around. So imagine you meet someone in your Second Life virtual reality space and you like the home decor of that person and you want to buy it for your real home. So why not? You can easily order it from Second Life and have it delivered in a physical space, in your physical home. This is like a brand new area that is just emerging, and with the use of virtual reality and immersive technologies, there will be a very interesting parallel universe created and parallel marketplace created, and very interesting opportunities to connect the physical marketplace with this virtual marketplace. Now, there is one more movement, which is not so much, again, about new business models, but so much about how you create value or how you fill up your business model with value. And that is called the transformation economy. And it started somewhere around the time when Starbucks started spreading, and they kind of decided to become like, instead of just being a coffee shop chain, becoming like the third place for people. Like we have our homes where we spend a lot of time, and we have our workplace where we spend a lot of time. So they said, let's become the third place where people are happy to come, to meet friends, to just work or study, hang out. And they created this coffee shop chain, which is like cool design, very cozy furniture. You can sit there the whole day, just sip your coffee, have a glass of water, and just work or study or do whatever you want to do. So instead of just branding themselves as a coffee shop, they created like a whole kind of space to transform your life. To give you like new experiences in this new space that they are offering. And this kind of seems to be like a rising economy. Here is another example called the Burning Man Festival, which is happening every summer in the US. Last year it didn't happen because of COVID. We'll see this year, which started with a very interesting story. Some people from California went out to the desert for a week, some sort of artist kind of community. And they said, let's do an experiment. Let's see what happens if we move out from the current economy and we create our own little economy for a purpose. We do something that makes sense. We express ourselves in new ways. We don't use money. We just exchange goods. We help each other. And we kind of create like, you know, this kind of alternative reality outside the money-driven and goal-driven economy. And this became like a huge buzz. More and more people started joining in every year. So in this middle picture, you can see like the village in the desert now. When the festival is happening, thousands of people are out there. And it became a huge marketplace, and it attracts a lot of money, a lot of investors, and there's a lot of buzz around it. It changes people's lives. That's why it's called transformation economy. It changes their perception. It really focuses on making you more purpose-driven instead of just, you know, going after money and profits and, you know, the regular stuff that drives economy. And then here are the closed loop economies, which is all around circular solutions. And again, I'm very happy to see some of the initiatives thinking around circular solutions. One of the, and it's all about learning from nature, mimicking nature, coming up with solutions that are kind of zero impact, zero negative impact, and designing our business models around that. And this is one example I really love. This is the plastic bank. They are doing a very simple thing. They literally act as a bank. You can bring your plastic waste to them. They will give you something in return. It can be money, it can be some other benefits, and they are going to sell those plastic waste to companies who then recycle them and use them to manufacture new goods. So basically they are creating this kind of last step to have like this circular solution for plastic waste. So there are all sorts of new customer behaviors around which new value definitions are growing up, and they create kind of new economical logic, and that kind of drives also new business models on the side of technologies. So let's look at what it means in terms of business models. And before we go into this topic, I just would like to stop for a moment and see, you know, what is business model in your definition? What do you think a business model is? If you could add it to the chat or share it with me, I would be curious to hear. What is a business model? I'm opening the chat now.
Nothing in the chat yet. What is business model?
Yeah, what would be your definition of a business model? No idea. Okay, let me share it with you. This is the definition that I like the most. It comes from 2009, which was already a while ago, and there are alterations and developments to it. But I think this is a very good way of expressing what a business model actually means. It describes the rationale how a company creates, delivers, and captures value. And now you understand why we always come back to this, you know, value question. What's the value that you are creating and how you capture value? In a traditional pipeline business, this is how it looks. We have a company who is the value creator. Let's say Trident. Trident is making yarn and textile and paper and chemicals and all these goods. Then you deliver the value to the customer. So the customer is the value receiver, and then the customer pays for it. So this is how you capture also value. So the value for the customer is the product that the customer receives, and the value for you is the money that you receive in return. It's a very simple kind of model, and this is kind of like a pipeline logic. It's linear, right? So this is coming from the 20th century business world. So technology makes this exponential. So what we see today is that our pipeline businesses are turning into network businesses, at least those companies who are really successful and kind of promise to be successful on the long run. They don't think in pipelines anymore. They don't think in just one value creator and providing to many value receivers. They are thinking in many value creators and in many value receivers. And this is how they can scale exponentially. So in order to manufacture one more extra piece of good, they don't have to invest. And in order to get one more extra client, they don't have to invest a disproportionately huge amount. It just happens within the network, and they are more like orchestrating the exchange of the value. So this is the logic that I would really like you to embrace, because this is the business model that is designed for abundance, to be able to create abundance and to be able to also capture value from this abundant, exponentially growing marketplace. So these business models behind those economies and those customer experiences that I was showing to you, these are the platforms, the marketplaces, the ecosystems that we live in, and we are all members of some of these. So let me show you an interesting example. Why is it so important that we think in terms of platforms and ecosystems and marketplaces? Every 3 out of 5 successful companies around the world are platform businesses, are ecosystem businesses, are these kind of network businesses. Every successful company out of 5 is operating already in this kind of business model. And I'm speaking about the Fortune 500, the big ones, the really powerful ones. Now, if we zoom out a little bit from this thought, so important are platform businesses, and look at the global economy. This is from 2019, the nominal GDP distribution amongst the different continents. And you can see that it's quite, from like in the linear world, it's quite an evenly distributed value creation that is happening. Now, if we say every 3 companies out of the 5 most successful ones are platform businesses, let's look at the same picture from a platform business's point of view. And this is what it looks like. I mean, when I first saw this chart, it really took my breath away. Obviously, North America is driving this trend Asia is there with them, and this is built on data from 2019. So my kind of hypothesis would be that Asia is much bigger by now in platform businesses, and they completely dominate over the market, North America and Asia. And if you look at Europe and the rest of the world, I mean, we are badly lagging behind. We have a few platform businesses driving exponential growth, but not significant. So I think it's very important, not only as Trident, but also, as kind of mindful players of the business economy, to contemplate that and to see, so what will that mean on the long run, not only for our businesses, our industries, but also for our economies in general. So let's see, what are these platform businesses? Platform businesses are following the sequence that started when I started telling you about the razors, that we used to have products, and from products we moved to services. And then from services, we move now to platforms or marketplaces. And from platforms or marketplaces, then our businesses are moving into ecosystems. Let me give you some examples to that. So let's take Amazon's example. So in the product age, in the pipeline age, we used to have bookstores, right? We used to go to the bookstore and buy our books there. After that, we moved from the bookstores to the online bookstore. That became like Amazon, like the biggest one around the world. But then Amazon said, why don't I sell other products as well? So from this online bookstore, Amazon became the largest e-commerce retailer around the world, where anybody can upload any goods to sell and anybody can buy any goods, right? This is the platform business. It's a network. It's not a pipeline anymore. Anybody can sell and buy, and you can be more, you can take more roles at the same time. So you can be a buyer and a seller at the same time. If I have some products, I can go to Amazon and distribute that, and I can still go there and buy my goods. But then what Amazon did, they said, okay, let's start moving into the ecosystem play. So first they created, the Kindle ebook readers, and they started selling Kindle ebook readers so that they have a new platform to sell books. Then they started selling Amazon Web Services, which is the biggest drive for revenues for them today. Then they created this application called Audible, where you can not only buy ebooks, but you can also buy audiobooks and listen to them. So they're really creating like a whole ecosystem around their product, and they are allowing more and more opportunities for clients to buy and to consume their products in different ways. This is what we call the ecosystem business models. And this way they are basically possessing the larger and larger size of the same market. So let me give you another example. This is Google. So the service that Google originally offers is searches, right? We go there, we search for things. The internet is full of useful information, and they make it accessible and searchable for us. So for this service, they built a platform which is called the Google Ads platform, where anybody can go and target and create ads and drive their marketing activities on this platform. So me as a Google search engine user, I can see products and I can click on products and buy products. So it's a kind of marketplace in disguise of a search engine, right? So that's the platform. So where did Google take it further? They said, okay, now we have millions and billions of users, so why don't we give them other services? And then they started building the ecosystem. And today we are using the Gmails, the Google Drives, the Google Docs, and the YouTubes, and all sorts of services, the Google Photos, Google Translator, the Google Calendar, that to make our life easier. So for the same kind of infrastructure, they started adding new and new kind of value propositions to the client base. So they are very firmly building and growing their client base, and they are creating more and more and more value. So we are more tied in with their services, and because it really makes our life different, easier, and simpler. And let's see the same logic for the industrial world, because that's your reality. So let's see one example that I kind of had the opportunity to follow through here in Hungary. And I think it was a very, very exciting learning opportunity, not only for me, but for everyone involved in it. And that's the story of GE. So I first started working with GE Lighting a few years back. And I told you probably already about this, that lighting businesses went through like a huge disruption a few years ago when traditional light bulbs were transformed into LED lights. So when LED hit the market, you know, that kind of skill set and special knowledge that lighting companies had and manufacturing companies had was not useful anymore. As complex as it was to manufacture light bulbs, as simple it is to manufacture LEDs. Anybody can do that. You don't need a GE, you don't need a Philips. Anybody can do that, and a lot of companies in Asia are doing it. So suddenly GE found himself being, it used to be like a value-added supplier of light bulbs for the world, and suddenly he ended up just being like the assembly partner of, you know, Chinese and other companies who were manufacturing components of an armature, and they were just putting it together and giving it to the client. So they lost the value added and they lost their market. Very quickly they went down. Both Philips and GE, the big ones, went down. So then they really started thinking, what do? We have a lot of employees, we have like our big factories, and, you know, we are really in trouble. Our product is obsolete and we are disrupted. So what they thought, let's follow this trend. Let's move from products to services. So what if we don't look at the lighting armatures as lighting armatures? What if we look at these as sensor armatures? So the same way we can put an LED light into like a street lamp, we can also put a sensor to measure air quality. We can also put a sensor to measure movement on the street. We can also put a sensor to measure sound and noise and so on and so forth. So why don't we equip our grid, our lighting grid, with all sorts of sensors, gather data, and create a platform where anybody can come and access the data. It can be weather data, you name it, and develop applications on top of that, right? So they had a genius platform idea. It's a very interesting case study. They actually started doing that for cities, and they started doing that for offices, and they had some really interesting applications. For example, in Detroit, which is not a very safe city, one of their startup partners came up with a solution that there were these noise sensors in the lamp armatures collecting data about gunshots. So whenever a gunshot or a gun was shot somewhere in Detroit, they use this triangulation method. Because of the lamp posts, they can exactly locate where the gun was used, and the police could get there within a minute. And that was quite a big successful application of this tool. So they clearly found the business model to move from products to services and from services to platforms. And they were also thinking in moving towards ecosystems. So GE Current was just one of their ideas. They had this idea of building GE Predix, which is I mentioned this industrial IoT platform where they are in the center of all the factories of the world. The factories are feeding in their manufacturing data, and they are opening up this data, anonymized, of course, to any developers to offer applications for the industry players, as I mentioned, from predictive maintenance to all sorts of services. So like an IoT marketplace or ecosystem for the industrial players. A genius idea again, and they had a good reason to do that. And they put everything on the same page. Like when they announced it with huge fanfares, and GE Current is actually one application area on top of the Predix platform, you know, the CEO said, you know, we don't have a plan B. This is our business model of the future, and we have to succeed in that. Now, fast forward 5 years, they failed big time. They failed both on Predix and they failed on Current as well. And I will let you know why. Because it's not a very trivial thing to build a successful platform. But I think, you know, learning from these big players who are smart enough and who were brave enough and bold enough to try in an early stage, I think it can make sure that once you try it, you can avoid some of the pitfalls that they couldn't foresee. But before we go into that, let's look into like, what is this platform? What is this whole kind of concept of network ecosystems and marketplaces and business models?
We'll just take a question, dear.
Yes.
So there's a question in the chat in the context of changing technology on the longevity of business models versus the traditional medium.
I beg your pardon, I didn't get the end of it. I'll just go to the chat as well.
Yeah. So he writes, in the age of technology where things get outdated.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Business models.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for this question. Actually, I would say what we see now is that these kind of network business models are pretty resilient, and they are with us for a few years now, and they are not going to disappear in the coming years. But what we always also see is that these companies who are doing these values, these platform businesses are constantly innovating on the value proposition side. Because the big secret of building a successful platform business is to keep the parties interested. So those who are coming in to be producers of value, like the industrial partners for Predix, for example, and those who are coming in to be consumers of the value, sorry, they're not the industrial partners. The application developers on Predix are the producers of value, and the industrial partners using those applications and feeding in the data are the consumers. So what is the value that you are giving them? You create like a baseline value proposition and solution for them, but then you constantly innovate to give them more, to give them something new, to give them something more valuable. And you don't just innovate, out of the blue, but working together with them and living together with the dynamics of your platform, seeing the needs of your customers and your producers, seeing the new opportunities opening up. You are improving and developing your business model. So let me give you, actually, thanks for this question, because now I can even tell you a little story about Airbnb that I just read yesterday. So Airbnb and Uber, and these were the first platform companies that come famous around the world. And I'm speaking to you more about GE today because I think that's more relevant, but the core of the platform business model comes from the Airbnbs and stuff. But Airbnb, for example, was badly disrupted by COVID. They were already facing a lot of troubles because of COVID, before COVID, because local governments and people living in cities were getting really upset with Airbnbs. Property prices were going up. Only in Hungary, in the last 5 years, property prices increased like 300 times, like really crazy. Everybody was buying flats and renting them to travelers. And people living downtown also felt like, their homes are just not livable anymore because there are always parties and people are changing in their block of flats. And, if you are a proper like citizen going to work every morning, you have no chance to survive downtown if you have a flat there. So there were more and more kind of pressure on Airbnb. And then COVID came and completely killed the business model. So then they really started thinking about how to pivot, how to evolve the business model. It's clear that they have a valuable platform, they have valuable value creators, the homeowners, and they have valuable value consumers, the travelers. So what do they do with that? And what they found is actually there is a new kind of emerging Airbnb customer because of COVID. Now we are working from home, from a home office. And a lot of people are actually interested in, maybe spending 1 month in this city and another one in that city, maybe 1 month on the seaside. And then for the winter, they move more to the south. So instead of just a regular way of renting flats for a few years and staying in the same place for a few years with the same landlord, people started moving to Airbnb to rent apartments for a month or two, working from here and then working from there, like creating this digital nomad lifestyle, which was enabled by COVID for the masses. And actually Airbnb now has a special offering for this. So they are really seeking to engage that market segment, those people who are working from home and who have the appetite to change locations regularly and move around, maybe even amongst countries once the lockdowns are over. So this is how the business model in its foundations is still the same, but the value proposition was altered to fit the current needs of the market. I hope I answered your question. So yes, go ahead, Zahira.
No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's look at what is the definition of a platform. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm just closing the chat. A platform is a new business model that uses technology to connect people, organizations, and resources in an interactive ecosystem where value can be created and exchanged. That's the definition. And I gave you some examples, and I want to give you more so you see exactly how it works. As you see, platforms are rising in many industries, from content creation to e-commerce, to travel, gaming, finance, healthcare. We see platforms rising, electricity markets. We see platforms rising everywhere. Here are some of the examples. There are many, many, many more, especially now. For example, if you think about all these startups that are growing in the healthcare industry. I think one of you just shared one article yesterday about this kind of democratized healthcare service by a startup in India. That is like a platform model. So more and more startups are experimenting in this space in more and more industries. And as I said, we are moving from a linear pipeline model where you have one producer or a small group of producers that are serving multiple consumers at the end. And the value unit is like going step by step through the ecosystem. So for example, as Trident, you have this kind of pipeline where you buy the raw material and you process it. And from cotton, you make yarn. From yarn, you make the textile. From textile, you make the final product, and then you ship it. And then your B2B partners are selling it to the consumers. It's a linear pipeline. And now we are moving to the ecosystem, which is more of a triangular value creation ecosystem, where you have the platform. Lucky position is when you are the platform owner, because the platform owner captures the exponential amount of the value. And then you can become a producer or a consumer, and value is circulating amongst the players, and the platform owner is orchestrating the value exchange. The whole logic is built on the network effect. The more nodes you have in the network, the more valuable your network is. So imagine, and this example comes from the age of like scaling mobile telephones, the original telephone landline network. Think about it like having 2 phones in your country. That's not a very valuable network, right? You can just make one connection with those 2 phones. And then once you have 5 phones in your country, that's already 10 connections. If you have 12 phones in your country, that's already 66 connections. And as you grow the number of nodes, which is the number of phones, this is how the value of your networks is going to grow. And now that you have, in our country, we have at least 10 million phone users. That means, you know, like uncounted number of connections. Now this is a valuable network that is worth, you know, doing something about. Why am I saying that? Because you have to design your business model for the network effect, right? So you have to have producers and you have to have consumers, a huge number of them, because that will make the network valuable. And that is the part that is very difficult. That is the part that G couldn't get right, and some other stuff I will tell you. But if you can get this one thing right, then your network, then your ecosystem, then your platform is going to be valuable. And let me go back to the Amazon example again here. You might have heard of this model called the Amazon flywheel. This is Amazon's design to actually be very mindful and drive very consciously this sort of cycle of value creation. So they were looking into like, how can we get more sellers on the platform? Because if we have more sellers on the platform, we have bigger selection of products, and then we have more buyers. But when we have more buyers on the platform, that means more transactions happening, so that will attract more sellers, right? But it's almost like a chicken and an egg problem. Like, how do you start growing it? And their answer to that was customer experience. So they said, you know, if we provide like an excellent customer experience, that will drive traffic on our portal. People will come to buy things. So that will increase the number of buyers, then sellers will come because there's a market here. If the sellers are there, then we have a bigger selection of products. So that means that we can improve our customer experience because, you know, there's a wider range of products that our customers can select from. That will attract more traffic again. So this wheel starts slowly turning. But then once you reach a tipping point, you have already enough traffic on your platform that you can lower your cost structure. I mean, it's almost like zero marginal cost to expand after a while. So if you have lower costs, then you can lower your prices. If you can lower your prices, that will be even better customer experience to your customers. That will drive more traffic, more sellers, more selection. And this is how this self-reinforcing cycle starts. And then you really have a business that grows exponentially and grows without significant extra investment needed on the back end. And we have this similar model from Uber. They are trying to follow that, and now more and more platform businesses are thinking in these kind of logics. And the reason why I'm saying that is because what I see in some of the initiatives in the sprint is that we are still not completely clear about the value proposition. What's in it for this side of the platform? What's in it for that side of the platform? So for example, in Uber, the flywheel looks like this. If we have more demand, so we have more travelers who want to use more app downloads, people who want to use Uber, then we will get more drivers, because it makes sense to go out and start driving in the afternoon when you have some free time. If we have more drivers, then we have more geographical coverage. If we have more geographical coverage, then we have faster pickups. If we have faster pickups, then more people want to use Uber, because then you don't have to wait for hours, and it's cheap and it's good, and that will bring more drivers. So this is the basic cycle. And then you know, the kind of self-reinforcing part is it that you know, if you have more drivers, then the driver down and more travelers, then the driver downtime will decrease, so that the prices can also decrease. So then again, you can increase demand, and then that will attract more drivers, and then more geographical solution. Again, faster pickups, less driver downtime, lower prices. So this is again like a self-reinforcing system, which will make your flywheel go almost automatically, and your business grow exponentially. So let's go back to Predix. Why did they fail, and what did go wrong? And I'm not going to ask you now, I'm just going to explain it quickly, because I want to save time to just very quickly look at the most important aspects of building platform businesses. Predix did not think about what's in it for the factories, and they did not think about what's in it for the application developers. They just had this model in their mind, and they didn't go through all the experiments, and they didn't test their hypothesis, and they didn't do like all this pain of, you know, testing and failing and learning. And they just had a great idea, and they thought everybody will think the same. You know, they thought they are big, they have money, they can hire people. This is what happened in Hungary. They started Predix here in Hungary. So they took some of the leaders from GE, and they said, okay, look, we have money. Tell us how many people you need to scale Predix in Hungary. And you know, the leaders were like, what? You know, we don't even know what it is. And, you know, we need to speak to our clients, and we need to see who are the potential application developers. There are so many open questions. We have no idea how many people we can hire, or we need to hire. We really need to figure out about this product. So there was countless amount of money. They had very talented people. There was a big openness from the management. There was a huge commitment, and they failed because they forgot and they didn't know how to nail the value proposition for every single player in the ecosystem. So an amazingly great idea. I'm still convinced that someone at one day will do it. Probably not Gene anymore, but they didn't know. They didn't know how to do this. So let me quickly show you how platforms are different from the traditional kind of pipes, and why they scale better. So the first example that you see there is GE Lightning. That's an asset-heavy pipeline business. We manufacture light bulbs and we sell them, right? That's a very simple kind of 20th century business model. Now, GE Current, as I explained, is already a mix of a traditional business and a platform. And I think this is something very interesting for you, because you have a traditional business and tremendous opportunity to build a platform on top of that. So this mixed model for GE was that we have the GE Lightning, we are manufacturing the grids, we are putting the sensors in it, we do all the physical stuff, but then we build the data platform on top of that, and then we create the marketplace on top of that. And then GE Predix was an asset-light solution that is a clean-only platform business where they didn't have any assets, they didn't have any physical infrastructure. They just went to leverage the assets of other factories and the physical infrastructure of other factories, and just do the data layer and the data platform on top of that. We spoke about the network effects. So how to design a platform, and I'll take another 5 minutes, and then we will have 10 minutes for Q&A. First of all, the most important part is the value unit. What is the value unit that your platform is offering? So for Uber, it is the drives. For Airbnb, it is the stays in the homes when you travel. For Amazon, it's the products that they are selling. For GE Predicts, it was supposed to be, you know, those applications, the predictive maintenance and all the stuff that the application developers are developing. So you have to be very clear about what is the value unit that you are sharing through your platform, your marketplace, for your ecosystem. And it can be many things. It can be a project, like on Kaggle.com, data scientists are applying for projects and they are solving data science problems for you. It can be data, for example, for Predicts. It can be content, like on medium.com. It's a blogging portal. Anybody can create their own blogs and share content and their thoughts. It can be a service, like in case of Current. It can be access something, like in case of LinkedIn, you can access talented people, for example, or again, insights and knowledge. So the value unit must be can be many things, but must be defined very, very, very clearly at the very beginning. And then the value unit, you can do many things with it. Maybe you are the creator of the value, maybe you are the consumer of the value, or maybe you are the creator of the value. So curator, for example, in case of TED, anybody can create TED, organize TED conferences or create TED Talks, or in Wikipedia, for example, communities curating the Wikipedia posts. Consumption is, you know, from Facebook to Google to all these examples that I was sharing with you. And creation is when you are actually doing it. Like, for example, in Medium, you are creating the value, the blog. The mindset change when you are thinking in terms of platform. And I also met this kind of bottleneck in the sprint that sometimes it's very hard to say we are opening up what we are doing even in front of our competitors, right? Why would we open it up in front of our competitors? We lose control. And actually, that's the whole point. We want to lose control. We don't want to control the resources. We want to orchestrate the resources. We don't want to use only our own resources. We want to use everybody else's resources. Like, how much manufacturing data does GE have? A lot, but still, compared to the whole world, it's very little. How much, you know, data, manufacturing data does all the other factories have? A lot. So you want to get access to all that data and orchestrate the value exchange. And then from internal optimization of trying to become cheaper, more efficient, you know, get better prices, get more effective on our manufacturing, we move out to facilitating external interactions. And that's where the value lies for us. And instead of just focusing on our current customer value, we are focusing on the ecosystem value. We want it to be valuable for everyone who participates in the ecosystem, not only from us. And here is the trap. And please remember this one, because I see also this happen in the sprint. Once we have a good idea and we feel like we validated it, we start building for functionality. So this is how this should work, right? That's our mindset. This is what we bring from the past. Okay, let's create an application. Let's create the prototype. This is how it should work. And actually, that's a huge trap. And that's the other place where GE failed big time, because they really started developing Predicts and Current, all the functionalities and features that they thought are needed. Actually, what they should have done is design the interactions first. So you don't develop for functionality, you develop for interactions, which means you have the value creators. Let's say, you know, the application developers of the world who want to develop applications based on the data accessible through GE. So how do they interact with the platform, and how do clients interact with the platform? How is data fed in? How are they getting, you know, relevant solutions from the application developers? What's in it for them? What's in it for them? How the interaction will happen? This is the big question. And this is what helps you optimizing the platform. And the functionality can come afterwards. It doesn't matter. It can be done. We have already enough experience in creating good dashboards and good, you know, websites and all that. That's not something you should start focusing on. Focus on the value units, and then focus on how you can facilitate interactions, because the interactions will make money for you. The platform has 3 layers. Usually there is a network itself, the network of contributors, producers and consumers. Then you have a set of tools to serve them. And then there is a data layer behind it. And usually that's kind of the core of it. And I know that there are a lot of kind of doubts around data and how data will be regulated. Security and privacy challenges are always on the radar. I really like this little matrix where you can kind of locate yourself. You can see, you know, sort of, what kind of data you can gather from low breadth and sensitivity to high breadth and sensitivity, and how beneficial services you can develop for the customer on top of that data from lower benefit, for benefit, higher benefit to the customer and higher benefit to the company. And then, you have different types of data, like the ones that are self-reported, that people are opting in, like when you are registering for a service and you are adding your email address and phone number and name and everything. There's the digital exos type of data, which companies are collecting about you as you are doing things on the internet. And then there are the profiling data, when companies are taking your digital exos data and your self-reported data and collect it all, and they create a profile about you, and they create like a data set that they can then give to other companies to target you with different types of services. So you can try to locate yourself in these data metrics, and then you can work out, how can you gain trust so that people will be willing to allow you to interact and play with their data. I have a very good example for 23andMe. It's a genome sequencing company. So you can give them your saliva sample, and they will create your genome sequence, and they can give like all sorts of predictions, like what illnesses are you prone to in the long run, what kind of lifestyle you should follow, who were your ancestors, and all sorts of stuff. And 80% of their customers agree that this genomic data in an anonymized format is given to third-party players by 23andMe. So 23andMe gives away your genomic data so that companies who are developing health solutions of the future can have access and can use this data to create a better healthcare and a kind of better future health system for all of us. And for this value proposition, 85% of the consumers agree to give away their kind of most sacred thing, the data about their DNA. So this is how value units work. The value proposition is defined so well and so nicely that even this information is accessible. What changes from the pipeline to the network businesses? The marketing shifts from push to pull. So you don't have to actively kind of try to convince customers to buy from you. They will come to you and they will express what they want. From valuing assets, we are shifting to valuing interactions, and interactions is a huge, huge, huge core thing in platforms. So keep that in mind. From the kind of old warehouse type of supply chains, this is a new supply chain that is built. Of course, data is the new dollar and oil, and there are all sorts of attributes that are popping up around it. Community management is the new HR resource management. So HR is not only about managing people who are working for your companies, but it's about managing everybody, all the producers and consumers, everybody who is participating in the value creation. And you really, in these companies, they really spend quality time and expertise on behavior design, and behavior design is exchanging or replacing the loyalty programs of the past, because a good experience is something you want. You don't need loyalty cards to be loyal to the company if you're enjoying the way you are served. And platforms open themselves to third-party contributors. I mean, that's like almost like obvious. So this was it, what I wanted to cover for today. There are different monetization models that we can also go through. I will share these slides with you, how you can monetize the flows on the platform and the transactions. There are the transactions cut when you pay, let's say, $10 for a ride, and $3 out of the 10 go to Uber and $7 go to the driver. Or you can pay for access to certain types of information, like in LinkedIn, for example, or you can pay for attention, like on Facebook, for example. When you are an advertiser, you can pay for tools when you are using certain tools online, like a Mural or Canva.com, or anything like that. So there are different ways to monetize that. And you have, of course, some canvases that you can use, and you are aware of the EXO canvas and the business model canvas. So if your business model is moving towards this network type of business model, then you can enrich your thinking, what you already know, with this kind of thinking, defining, all the different players on your platform ecosystem. Who owns it? Ideally, it's you. Who are your key partners? Who are your producers? Who are your consumers? and what will be the value for each of them. This is something that is foundational. You have to get it right at the very beginning. And then there is a specific platform ecosystem canvas that is very similar to the business model canvas, only that all these different actors and different roles are factored into that. So all in all, we went through a lot of stuff today. We spoke a little bit about all the business models and how like even business models around selling products started to become digitized. And then we went into like, what are the new economies, new experiences that we are looking for as consumers? What are the new trends that are rising? Spoke a little bit about moving from the linear business models to the network business models, which can be a platform, an ecosystem, a marketplace, and how to build those. And just very quickly took a short look at the monetization models. I stop here and we have a few minutes left. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
So I'll go first with a question, Dia. How do companies decide that they need to pivot to a network business from a traditional pipeline?
So there can be many reasons. Like, for example, in this example that I brought from GE and GE Current, the reason for them to move towards platform was that the product was obsolete. Their value add disappeared. The light bulbs, as we knew them, disappeared. For Predix, it was more like because of current and the disruption of the lighting business line, they understood that, you know, this is the future of business. They have to move towards the pipelines. And actually, this is happening with most of the companies. So either they are disrupted or they feel the pressure from the market, or they see some other industries where it's already happening and they understand that I mean, GE CEO was very, very right. There is no plan B. You have to somehow start, you know, going into this direction.
Right.
Or they go through an EXO program.
Oh, they go through, yes, thanks, Suman, of course. Some of them do. Actually, we are seeing platform businesses emerging from on the side of some of the sprints we ran in the past. So, and just let me tell you one example. We did a sprint in South Africa 2 years ago with a telco company. And I was coaching an edge team there. And one of the initiatives is actually just launched on the market now as we speak. And it took them 2 years of experimentation to find the right business model. It's a platform business, but it took them 2 years of back and forth and adjusting and polishing and working it up. And now they get it right. And now they are ready to go to market. So it's not an easy thing. It sounds very simple, like, yeah, we have the producers, like the Airbnb example. Everybody's giving the Airbnb example. It's so simple. You know, we have the homeowners and we have the travelers, and you just connect them and you have a happy $1 billion business. I mean, it's not that simple at all. So, but this company with whom we ran this sprint in South Africa, they are creating a new market that didn't exist before. And they are the first ones there, and they have a ready business model. And I think they have a huge business opportunity there.
Thank you. Pravesh is asking a question. Can business model predict the life of the product or service?
Very good question. Very, very good question. I would say, I think it's not the business model that can predict the life of the product. It's more like the interaction, the consumers and the producers' interaction with the product or the service that help us to predict what the future of that product might be. So I would rather pay attention to that. And that's one of the reasons. And actually, we can even influence the future of the product and the service. So one of the reasons that these companies are employing like a serious army of behavior designers is that they are really trying to alter the customer experience and using these products and services in a way that influences the behavior of the consumer. So it's just not just the consumer's needs that influence the future of the product, but also our kind of understanding of human behavior and then evolving our product in a way that we can influence the market by it. So it's a very interesting interplay of the two. There are pains and gains on the consumer side, and that helps us to define our products and services. But then we use data and we use kind of intelligence, like business intelligence and behavior science, to then start, changing the behaviors of the consumers. I would never take a product or a service for granted. So I would say, these are things that are changing constantly, day to day. And I think the whole kind of platform play and data play and smartness economy and crowd economy, it all just helps us to be smarter and understand better how we need to evolve our products and services for the customer of tomorrow and after tomorrow and after tomorrow. So it's a constant evolution. There's no product that is ready.
Right.
Any other questions?
Would our coaches on call here want to add anything in addition to what Dia's already said? Lots of learnings, Dia. Lots of learnings. Thank you so much.
I know it was very heavy. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to share my slides and you can just scroll through, and that will help you remember like all the topics that we covered. And I see one message from Savita, sorry, leaving for another meeting for hypothesis, which is a very good one. I love that. So yeah, that's a very good purpose to leave a meeting for.
Yes.
I just remind everybody of the value from the value proposition canvas and the business model canvas. Everything Dia's talked about is very in depth and awesome, and it can all be reflected on those canvases. So I'd encourage the teams to ensure that they look at their canvases and those different components and how it can play out, and use the canvas to model those different scenarios too. It's really useful to try different things to map those out.
Thank you, Trent. Suman, Deepak, Jyoti, anything?
Oh, I just want to echo what Trent said. Absolutely. This is the next things that I'm sure over the next couple of weeks we'll have to refine and build on that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, a lot of interesting ideas, I think, for the sprinters. A lot of good ideas for me as well. It's a good learning for me as well. And I think sprinters can pick up some good suggestions from this presentation. Thanks for sharing, Dia.
Right. So how is everybody feeling right now? Post this session? You can come off mute and tell us.
Tired.
I can't even make out who's awake behind these screens. I know Pravesh is wide awake among the sprinters. I don't know about the rest. Would be nice if any one sprinter comes on and shares his key takeaways from today's session. He has put in a lot of effort. Let's see if any one learning at least has got passed on. Randomly, I'm just going to call out names otherwise.
That's all right. Everybody is gone for a meeting about hypothesis. So I think we can conclude here.
If you don't want to come on and speak, you can even type. One last time, I'll ask if anybody would like to share. Okay. I guess, okay. Trent says he's loved it. That's very sweet of you, Trent. Thank you. Anybody else, any of the team sponsors who are on call, would you like to say something? All right.
That's all right.
I think we'll
let's
wrap
go.
it.
Yeah, let's go and start using some of it.
Let's apply. I think that'll be the biggest tribute benefiting this particular session. Thank you very much, Dia. Very, very useful. And
thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all learned a lot from it. Thank you. Jyoti is also smiling, so it looks like he's imbibed a lot too. Thank you very much. Jyoti?
I was laughing at Trent's comment. We need a VC flywheel.
Okay, perfect. Have a nice day.
And on that happy note, we shall end. Bye, everybody. Thank you all for attending. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.